Уважаемые дамы и господа, я рад вас...
Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to welcome you to our panel dedicated to robotics, renaissance of robotics. Thank you so much for coming. I do think that the discussion will be very exciting, very interesting, because the panelists are just brilliant. Let me introduce to you our today's moderator. That's Hallie Siegel. Please give her an applaud. She is managing editor of robohub.org. And you are not welcome to visit this blog right now, but later on you are welcome very much. Hallie will introduce you all our participants and experts. Hallie, you're welcome.
Everyone to the panel discussion, Robotics Renaissance. Thank you for coming today. The field of robotics is evolving really rapidly right now thanks to advances in sensing and actuation and computation. And the result is that we're now beginning to see robots transition from their traditional domains in manufacturing and research labs or defense applications and into mainstream professional service and consumer markets, places where people are at the center. And this evolution into human-centered applications has important consequences for society at large, as well as for the various stakeholders working in the field of robotics, whom we have with us today, including researchers and policymakers, entrepreneurs, and investors. Today we have a wonderfully diverse group of experts from different disciplines and backgrounds gathered here in order to explore what opportunities this newest generation of robots is bringing, as well as to look at what are the challenges that lie ahead. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce at the end Dmitry Grishin, whom most of you will already know as co-founder and CEO of the Mail.ru group, and he's also founder of the venture capital investment firm Grishin Robotics. Next we have Giulio Sandini, who is professor of bioengineering at the University of Genoa and director of research at the Italian Institute of Technology. And Jong-Oh Park, director of the Robot Research Initiative and faculty at the Chongnam National University in Korea. Alexander Lopota, director and chief designer at the Russian State Scientific Center for Robotics and Technical Cybernetics. Frank Schneider, head of the European Robotics Group and the European Land Robot Trials, and the driving force behind the new Eurothlon competition. And we also have Cory, founder and CEO of Intuitive Automata. And we also have two experts joining our discussion today. Albert Efimov, project director of the IT cluster at the Skolkovo Foundation. And Konstantin Kolontarev, who is assistant professor at the Moscow State Medical Stomatological University. Would you like to come? Thank you. So we keep hearing that robotics is poised for rapid growth, and I'd like to open our discussion today by asking our panelists, is it true? Are we entering a new era for robotics? Dmitry, you have had enormous success as an internet entrepreneur. What made you jump into robotics?
Thanks. In terms of robotics, there is two reasons for me to jump in this territory. First, I was educated at the Moscow State Technology University and robotics faculty, and it was my passion from university time. But it's more than passion. I really believe that right now it's we have fundamental change in the market, where before robotics was available only for big corporations. So if you have only really tens of millions of dollars, you can do something with robotics. It's usually big car manufacturers companies who have access to this robotics, and military governments, nobody else. And for last 10 years, we have big change and big shift. And I think key reason is that robotics became much cheaper and much more available. For example, if you want to build a robot right now, you can buy a lot of components like HD camera, Bluetooth module, Wi-Fi module, they cost really cheap, $2–3. And the same components 10 years ago cost really like $10,000. So one of the key reasons for this is a revolution in smartphone industry, which make available a lot of components for much cheaper price, and it's absolutely changed fundamentally how we can what we can build. So right now it starts to be possible to start robotics company and robotics startups having only 2–3 engineers, and you can use 3D printers to do prototypes for your robots, which also was not possible 10–20 years ago, because prototyping for robotics is very, very important important components. And I think third reason for this market is that you now have big outsourcing machine in China where you can produce these robots. You can have like 1,000 or 2,000 items to be produced. You don't need to build your own factory right now, so it's much easier to build robots, especially for consumers right now. So these three factors, let me remind them, are much cheaper components in electronics, batteries, processors, memory, anything related to robotics. It's 100 times more cheaper than it was 10 years ago. Second, 3D printers, which give ability to make prototypes very quickly. And third is big infrastructure for outsourcing of production. All these three things make it possible to enter to this market a lot of small companies. And what we are trying to do, we try to support the small companies to enter this market. And I believe that right now, computer industry is more than $1 trillion market. And I believe that next $1 trillion market will be robotics, especially consumer robotics. It definitely will be a big revolution, and robots will be everywhere. They will not look like humanoid androids. It will not happen very soon, but robots will be everywhere. They will be in our homes, they will be in our work, they will be on the streets, they will be everywhere, just because they became much cheaper and much more available. I think that is.
Thank you, Dmitry. Giulio, you're at the other end of the spectrum in many ways in research. Can you tell us about the humanoid research platform that you're working on?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm on the other side. I'm coming more from the research aspects point of view. If I may have the slides. Okay.
No, I think maybe I have some videos to show. I don't know.
It's, and I don't know. Okay, if I.
Oh, yeah, I see this. Yes, yeah. Let me say this is one of the companies which I invest. It's called Double Robotics. They're based in California. And what they're building really cheap, $2,000 to the present robots, which look like Segways. They're self-balancing, and it looks pretty cool. You can see the stuff. You can make it a little louder. It's okay. And one of the area which I really believe, this is how he's look like. It's office of the company. So you now can have $2,000 robot, which you can drive from sitting in Moscow, and robot can be in other places like in San Francisco, in New York, everywhere. And we believe that it's one of the technologies in robotics in consumer market which can really change the situation. And what's the more important, that before this company, you can buy only the present robot only $20,000, $40,000, which really very expensive. And these guys make this, it looks beautiful and very, very cheap, which are very, very, very important. And they're already selling these robots. Yeah, and they promised me that soon will be available not only in US but international and in Russia also. So I hope some universities and somebody sitting here can buy this robot very, very, very soon. And I think we have a second video. It's other company which I invest called Swivel. If they launch, they create video solution which allow you to make video of if you're doing presentation, They have special device which just follow you and making video of you when you do presentation. It's automatically, you can do a little loud if you can. So this device just allow you to make video of yourself, and once you're moving, it just follow you and automatically records the video. And we believe it's huge market. They already sell 10,000 of these robots on Amazon, and soon they will launch new version for education. And we see a lot of feedback from universities, which really people like, because a lot of professors, a lot of teachers right now understand that online education is coming, and they all ask for making video of themselves. And before, you usually need to have special person who make video because people are moving, and it's difficult. And right now you have spending only $250 buy automatic robot which can follow you and make video of yourself. And I think it's pretty exciting. So I just want to say, show you like two examples. So I more represent like practical area of robotics, where we try to find business models which people will ready pay money and buy these products right now, not after 5 years, not after 10 years, right now. We already found several companies, and I think this is two examples which can, I hope, can inspire you what's happening right now with consumer robotics. So thank you.
Thank you, Dmitry.
Sorry for interruption.
No, that was my mistake. Giulio,
Yes.
you're at the other end of the spectrum
Yeah.
in research. Why don't you tell us about some of your work in human-robot interaction?
Yes. So if I may have the slides now, basically, I mean, what I wanted to tell you a little bit is what we are aiming at, more on the long term, with respect to what we just heard. Can I have these slides? Do I have to do something myself, or? No, it's like this. Okay, so I mean, this is basically what robotics is today, at least as far as you know, the applications we are working on is so the robots are faster, stronger, more resilient, precise. But what we really want is to get robots closer to humans, and you know, working on what we call humanoid technologies. And when I say closer to humans, I mean closer to humans in two ways. One is, you know, in shape and function. So we want these robots to be able to resemble what we are doing, maybe also shape, but the function is more important. But also, we would like to have the robots living with us in such a way that they may also change the structure of our own society. And we started from keyboards. You know, keyboards have changed our society in many ways. I mean, we all are handling keyboards at these specific moments. But this technology is reaching a limit. It's reaching a limit because the human brains can't cope with this kind of technology. This is the title of an recently appeared articles. So we need to find different ways of doing this. I mean, and this technology is certainly not helping us in building, you know, social interaction in any way. So we really would like to interact with machines as if they were humans, at least for the kind of applications we would like to anticipate. So the important aspects that such machines must have is they must be able to put themselves in someone else's shoes. This is very crucial for autonomous, for getting the robots at autonomy level, which is good enough for us to work in our houses. We want them to anticipate the fact of their own actions, but also be able to expect, to anticipate the actions of somebody else. This is the true core of interaction as we see it now. And what we think it is important and fundamental to do in order to address this issue is to change the approach to the study of human-machine interaction by adding to our community not only roboticians and engineers, but also psychologists and neuroscientists to see the other side of the interaction, which is still pretty much unknown. So is this the field of cognitive robotics, which is one of the areas where Europe has been investing a lot in the recent years, which is basically going to study humans on one side, to implement humanoids or to use humanoids as models, and to study the interaction. So interdisciplinarity is the second keyword I want to stress. So these humanoids has to be seen as developmental tools, development tools, not necessarily as the final goal of what we do, but if I take an analogy with flight, I mean, if you want to study, and in the past we studied how an object, a bird or an artificial system can fly, this involves a lot of interest. This involves a lot of studies. And with the wind tunnel was the tool which really made the difference there, because it was impossible to study the interaction between the airflow and any object, humans, cars, airplanes, and so on and so forth. So in this sense, we see the humanoids we work with as wind tunnels to study the interaction. So it's to study how really we would like to interact with humans. So this is our wind tunnel, the ICAB. I don't go through the characteristics. If you want all the details, that you can find them on the net. I just want to stress two things. The first one is that with this kind of system, you can develop the technologies. And I want to stress that among the technologies, there is intelligence, which is, in my view, the most important technology for robotics in the future, where we are still pretty much far away from what we were thinking a few years ago. So it is a developmental tool for what we can do today, but it's also a developmental tool for what we want to do in the future. These are learning, adaptation, human-like interaction, and so on and so forth. So ICAB is also a community building. We have 25 of these platforms in the world, and I'm telling this because the kind of topics we are involved in studying are so complicated that we really need a worldwide effort in order to be able to advance. It is not, it cannot be limited to single research institutes, even bigger as the one I'm working with. And this is working. It's an open system. We need to be open in this area also. So the last slide I want to show is that what I think, in order to study this friendly interaction, we need to move along two main directions to have more friendly robots. The first one is to increment compliance. And when I say compliance, I mean, robots which are able to do these kind of things. In spite of the fact that they are built with stainless steel, aluminum, very hard materials, they can be compliant. The second point is cognition. We want to improve the cognitive skills, because what we really want, we want to have robots who can really learn as we do. So, in synthesis, interdisciplinarity, interaction as mutual understanding, and compliance. This is what I think are the important aspects we are really working on. And with this, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Giulio. Jong-Oh Park, can you tell us about your work in micro and nano robotics?
Is my video here? Okay. Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm in charge of Robotics Research Institute initiative in Korea. Yeah. Actually, in robotics community, if the robot is applied in production, then we define this as industrial robot. If not, then it's service robot. This industrial robot market started 1970s, 10 years after robot birth. And since 1990, service robot was introduced to the public. And at the beginning of 21st century, there were three major important fabless service robots on the market. One is from Honda, humanoid Asimo, And second is iRobot vacuum cleaner, Roomba, and the third one is Sony pet dog Aibo. It was very interesting, and these three robots made the service robot market very tangible, very visible to the public. From this point of view, the market for the new robot, new kind of, I mean here, service robot is already open at least 10 years ago. And the major problem is what kind of robot, or what kind of robot as a killer application. This will be the exact question for the market. These are some success stories. One is Da Vinci surgery robot, and Packbot as soldier robot, and this global hawk or predator for unmanned air vehicle. These three are real the success story, and this power amplifier, and this vacuum cleaning and amusement park using robot, and this human-like industrial robot might be the next, I guess. This slide shows my some robotics research and development in the field of micro nano robotics. And the first colonoscope robot was commercialized. After that, capsule endoscope was commercialized, and last year it was FDA cleared. And after that, I developed and succeeded this micro robot in real blood vessel with live pig. It was a world first. And in parallel, I'm working on this nano robot using bacteria as a kind of microbe. Yeah, this is some interesting moving picture. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. This micro device is a diameter just 1 millimeter, and you see, this is not computer graphics. This is a real, shows a real-time tracking of this micro robot in real mini pig using 3D reconstruction. Another one is this one of my current research is interesting, I guess. And I heard that here, capsule endoscope was also introduced to Russia, and all of this capsule endoscope on the market is just passive, no motion. Therefore, it takes 8 or 12 years, 12 hours to see small bowel image. But here, this active capsule endoscope is totally different. A surgeon can control this capsule endoscope just by using this joystick. Therefore, it will take just 15 or 20 minutes. And it will make a huge market, I guess. And I'm looking for one good partner for commercialization at this moment. Yeah, and RRI has a global network. And during this visit, I would like to find a good Russian partner, maybe for the networking. It doesn't work. Yeah, sorry. International Federation of Robotics, I have been involved over 15 years, and one of IFR, the goal is to publish annually robot statistics in industrial robot area and also service robot area. And such data is a very realistic, not any visionary data. I would like to introduce a couple of interesting quantitative data to you. Yeah, we are talking about service robotics, not industrial robot. But maybe the main reason will be fashionable or something new. But the fact is that industrial robot markets are leading, and the second one is service a professional service robot like a surgery or soldier or defense robot. And the last one is a personal service robot like a vacuum cleaner or toy robot. Yeah. And this slide is the Central Europe, including Russia, and current industrial robot market. Industrial robot is not so well vitalized in comparison with the 5 major, and maybe the Russian industrial robot market is very dependent on the car manufacturing, I guess. And this slide shows what kind of service robot is more preferable and high value. And you see, if this data is converted in market amount and not unit, then this defense robot, oh, sorry. Oh, more complicated. Yeah, defense robot and here medical robot is real very high valued, and is, for example, the medical robot will have real the steepest growth rate in midterm market viewpoint. Personal service robot is slow, small, but the expectation in midterm is quite high. Maybe this ended my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexander, you're involved in research and development in space robotics and disaster response. What can you tell us about your work in the area you've called extreme robotics?
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Hello, everyone. Dear colleagues.
Speaking person sitting here, so anyway, in Russia I'll speak Russian. Прошу прощения, что не...
Well, apologies. I haven't prepared my presentation in English. We were in a hurry. Well, we are quite far from mass robotics production and relevant apps. And Hallie was absolutely right. What we have is mostly related to space, extreme reconnaissance, and that's our building on the picture. And actually, robotics takes 20% of what we do, because it's cybernetics and everything that surrounds us, and robots and different processes. That's what's happening around us. Next, please. Well, but just before this event, I decided to open one of the analytical reports and take a look at what's going to happen to robotics in the near future. That's the trend. That's what we have today. That's the statistics available to us today. And until 2016, nothing's going to happen. That's what specialists say. Things are changing gradually, but probably after 2020, 2025, we can expect a huge leap, and probably growth will accelerate and the market will expand. That's what we have today. As the previous speaker mentioned, this is military industry, field robots, and service robots in compliance with, manufactured in compliance with the Western classification and requirements. If you take a look at 2016, well, you can't say that the pace is really high. This is cumulative data, so the increase is all in all maybe 20%. Sales volumes are relevant. Well, we think, just by looking at this robotics industry, we've been thinking what needs to be done to expand this market. I think that, of course, we would need a different social environment and a different demand. Because at the moment, the price per one robot is over several $1,000s, even if it's a robot vacuum cleaner. A decent one, high quality vacuum cleaner, it costs about $1,500, which is not acceptable for the mass market. Because the system like this should be reliable. So we can't really boast something that good and reliable. Unfortunately, we don't have this yet. So to address all those challenges and issues, we need to improve the quality and functionality, and we need to have the relevant demand. Because components for these robots should be really cheap, and when it happens, then we would make a breakthrough in this area. What else do we need? We need to make sure these systems are independent and they have to have similar interface so that they could exchange data with other devices and other robots and be connected to the cloud, as we say now, and should be very independent, capable of managing everything on its own. So what the requirements are: working in different environments. It's very easy to teach a system or a machine to do something. We know that cars use roads. You know, sometimes in some countries, roads are of wonderful quality, and cars like BWM and Mercedes, they have best navigation systems. But if you come to Russia, this doesn't work. Because not everywhere we have good roads, and I used to drive Mercedes. Navigation system's wonderful, but in Russia, it's raining, it's snowing, the system breaks down, says there was an error. So working in challenging environment, that's one of the factors that we need to find a solution for. We need to work on sensors and gauges, and we should be able to integrate them properly. Speaking about what we do, projects that we are working on, that'll be specific robots. This is a very young market. It's just emerging. One of the areas that we're working in is space, robotics, space and robots for difficult conditions. For example, where you need to find something and where you deal with radiation. As of today, this is the priority for us, because Fukushima told us that sometimes, and we actually saw the examples, that sometimes it's very difficult to deal with nature. That is why we need to think about it, because the consequences may be very negative. So for this particular case, we have special and multifunctional devices. We are working on the configuration, and sometimes we have special devices targeted at specific tasks. And sometimes you can add any sensor or gauge you like. So one of the tasks for the future is to create a system with a unified interface. When there's a basic system and other systems or devices could interact with each other, there'll be an data exchange protocol. Because nowadays you can manage anything in your house using just one remote control. In conclusion, I was talking about unification and one interface for all devices. That's what space robotics have. When we're working on unified modules, which you can reconfigure, and you can assemble these even in space. And actually, some devices, some robots, can assemble themselves on their own. They can investigate the spaceship, and sometimes they can do this on their own or with the help of the cosmonaut. But actually, robots need only 3 types of operations. That'll be transportation, different manipulations here, help and support the cosmonaut, and maintenance, independent maintenance. So this is one of the ideologies that we're promoting. We're working with different organizations. We are working on different programs that we plan to launch. And in conclusion, I would like to say that robotics, if we want to make a breakthrough, we need work jointly with other countries. We need to join forces. We will succeed only if we join forces. Thank you.
Frank, the LROB and Eurathlon competitions were designed to help speed up progress towards smarter robots in some of the applications that Alexander was just talking about. Can you share with us what kinds of developments you've seen come out of these competitions?
You should push this up.
No, we go. Yes, I'm very grateful what Alexander just said, because he sketched quite a good picture of what is one of the major problems in robotics, and it's basically the gap that we have between academia, the user, and the industry that are out there. And as you already said, we try to use competitions like the European Land Robot Trail and Eurathlon to give the 3 different communities an opportunity to meet each other, and we try to pull, for example, the academia out of their lab into real-world scenarios designed by the users that attend the competitions, so they can see that there's a real benefit in using robotics and having that link and getting the hands on what the academia does. And on the other hand, we try to get industry to the competition so they can see where they can buy the innovation that they probably don't have, and where they can link up with the user to see what the user really needs. I mean, there's in many cases, there's quite a huge gap between what the industry thinks the user needs and the user actually really needs. And it's pretty obvious from the slides that we also saw before, is there's one difference. The biggest market right now is defense for robotics. And that's slightly different here because the user in the defense market is very strong, and he's quite capable of telling the industry and the academia what they would like to see. I see that slightly different in the more civilian market, but we're moving there. And there are some tremendous examples from Russia, for example, in the firefighting robots I saw from a colleague of yours, Sharichenko. Yeah. And he showed the slides of his firefighting robots, which are really awesome. And I think using competitions is a very good field for quite a few different things. It's, for example, for education, for young students to learn to get something ready and done for a specific goal, so they have a thing where they can work to. We try to get them out of their labs, get the robots into the real world. You have also the fact that the user can design the scenarios explicitly like they have it in their real world tasks. So it's not, you know, look, that's my new robot and see what all stuff it can do, but it's completely off topic for the user because he wants to go into a burning house or whatever. And so sometimes this is, they're talking on different levels, and with the competitions designed by the users, and the academia and the participants have to face the situations constructed by the user, gives them a completely different angle on the problems there. And we also try, and this was an interesting topic also in Alexander's talks, is standardization. So we introduced in the competitions more and more standards which have to be met by the participants. Otherwise, they are not allowed to participate. And by that, with support from the industry telling us which are the standards that have to be in place, we built up not only a community that talks to each other by meeting personally, but they will be able to exchange soft and hardware coming from different universities and different domains like fire brigade or police or whatever, through the fact of standardization. So I think that having competitions we have them in defense and we have them in the civilian applications like firefighting, emergency services, and all sorts of stuff. By having competitions, I think it's a great opportunity for the community to talk to each other and actually to mingle, to promulgate their problems and their needs. And the next big event that we will have is in 2015, where we'll have air, land, and sea in one place. And the scenario behind that is just what you said. It's Fukushima, because it had all three domains to be covered by the robots, with the flying robots taking the air pictures, having the land robots go in there doing measurements, and have the underwater robots doing the measurements in the sea. So this is a European project funded by the European Commission, the 7th framework, and it will have its finals in 2015. Place and time are not yet set, but I think it's definitely a thing to have a look on.
Frank, is there a market that exists right now for this type of disaster response robot? Like, are there ready buyers right now, or is that also waiting in development?
Well, there's quite a huge market actually for it, but there are, at least to my point of view, yet not really good solutions for the market. We have this, I don't name the company, but there's this big American company which is selling their robots to the defense sector, and they're trying to transfer that to the private market, to the civilian market, but I don't think it's constructed for a different market. And if you go, for example, to Alexander's research facility, I've been on the Extreme Robotics Conference and I've seen your robots. They're completely different style. They're completely constructed for the work they have to do in radiological environments and these areas. So, as I said, there's a huge gap between what's actually needed and what's produced by industry right now. And I think one of the biggest efforts will be in closing that gap.
So, Cory, you're an interesting case because you've recently made that leap from research into business. What was behind your decision?
So I got my start in social robots, interactive robots, about a dozen years ago. And over the course of the first couple of years, found very interesting application around using robotic technology that's available today. A decade ago, it was definitely very early stages. You know, one thing that Dmitry talked about a few minutes ago was the lowering costs of building robots. And what I found through the course of that work was that there are applications that we can build today and build these as consumer available products. So, you know, instead of slides here, I brought a robot today. For those of you in the plenary session this morning, you saw the demo. This is Autumn, our weight loss coach. And so over several years of research, we found that something like this was much more effective at engaging a person than doing the same thing, delivering the same software and conversations on a screen. This morning, I got to spend more time talking about why, but based on that, what we have built is a platform so that that a robot like this can have a conversation with someone on a regular basis, adapt that conversation to them, and continue to learn about each person over time. So we heard a few minutes ago about some human-robot interaction work with iCub. I did some early work early in the last decade to understand some of that psychology about how we as people interact with something that might look like this. And we understand enough about that to translate that into a commercial product today. So 6 years ago, as I was finishing up my PhD work at MIT, I found that I felt like the time was right. It wasn't quite cost effective to build something then, but I knew within a few years we would reach that point. And I think that's where we are today. So Dmitry gave some examples of a few other companies that are building consumer products now. And I think we're just on the beginning edge of that. The costs have really dropped in the last 1 to 2 years to be able to manufacture something like this at quantity for a product that ends up costing just a few $100s today. And I imagine we'll see much lower price points in the next 3 to 5 years. But I think the time is really right now in terms of our understanding of human-robot interaction, the availability of components, the ability to manufacture these, so that we're going to see a lot of this kind of robot on the market in the next few years.
Seems like the theme of standardization is something almost all of you touched on. Giulio, I'm curious because some of what you were talking about is certainly a lot more heavily into research than commercial, and I'm wondering, are we likely to see any commercial applications come out of the iCub research platform?
Well, as far as the iCub is concerned, I don't think that there's going to be, commercial applications with that system. I mean, the motivation was to build a community of researchers and people interested in working with the robot and use the robot as a model of, what we think we need to implement in a humanoid robot. So, in that respect, its cost, it is certainly not commercially available to everybody, but the goal for us was different. So it is loaded with sensors, skin, eyes, accelerometers, and it is very, it has very fine manipulation because we want to test what are the functions that are really important, for developing a realistic interaction. So in that sense, I think that the technologies that are coming out, the byproducts that are coming out from the iCub, they may have a commercial applications, and they already have. The skin, for example, is used for covering sensitive areas in home appliances and other applications. And I think that some of the algorithms that we are developing in terms of understanding behavior of others can be used in surveillance applications. And so it is like as I was saying, I mean, that the final goal is very far, but the point is how to get there and what you learn while getting there, which is important to understand for us.
Thank you. I'd like to shift gears a minute and talk a bit about how we measure value or efficacy of robotic systems. Cory, have you done any efficacy studies for Autom?
Yes, absolutely. So the dissertation work that I was doing at MIT, I was also working jointly at Boston Medical Center. And my view of robotics is really around the application, not so much the technology. So building technology in support of some end goal. And we were looking there at being able to engage a patient over time. Specifically, that was around patients trying to adhere to a diet. And compared to either delivering the same technology through a screen-based interaction or today's standard of care in many healthcare applications, a paper log of tracking what you're doing, we saw a highly significant difference in terms of the ability of a robot to actually engage that patient over time. And really that work was when we decided to found the company, showing that this really was effective, that there was a market problem, a healthcare problem that could be solved with today's robotic technology, was the thing that drove us to start building this as a commercial product.
Thanks. I'm also curious about surgical robotics and what the efficacy is of these kinds of systems. Do they improve outcomes? Jong-Oh, do you have any perspective on that for us?
Surgery robotics, what did you say afterward?
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can talk to us about the efficacy of surgical robotics.
Yeah. Yes.
What value do they bring?
Value, yeah, is I would say it's really the best high value add for from time to time. I would say one vacuum cleaning robot is just about $200, and one surgery, for example, Da Vinci is it will cost $2 million, and it's just with one piece it's 10,000 times difference. It is really a medical robot is a real high value, and I think it's the best product for some making business. Is my point.
I'm wondering, perhaps Albert, you might jump in if you'd like to come to the podium, maybe. But I'm wondering whether you feel these types of systems improve the way people work. Or Konstantin, would you feel comfortable talking about that? Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for a chance to participate. I'm working with Professor Pushkar at Moscow State Medical University Department of Urology, and we are starting to use robot technique, you may say so, like Da Vinci robot as well, like starting from 2008. And we were the very first Russian people who started to do that, but still we are users, and we started to use the robots, started to learn how to use it. And of course, right now we think that medical robot systems and surgical systems, they are one of the best robot items to be sold. So and we are trying to, and we are talking about efficacy, and we can measure efficacy of surgical robots in the best way of any robot items. So we are trying to use it, and right now we made more than like 700 procedures, and right now we are experienced users, and we are trying to create our own surgical robot, and we are on our way to do this, and we are trying to find a way to make it better and to use it as long as possible. So.
Thank you. Frank was speaking about the gap between technology on the one hand and application on the other. Dmitry, I'd like to get your take on value from an investor's perspective, because it often seems that there is this gap between technology and a business model on the one hand, technology on the one hand, a business model on the other. How often do you see a mismatch between what a robotics researcher or a developer thinks is valuable and what the market thinks is valuable?
I think it's a little different. Rephrase your question. What I see, it's if you compare robotics with early internet time, which I remember year 2000 and even earlier, I remember that usually internet companies start people with technical background like myself, and they exciting about technology. For example, I can create some cool web technology or something like storage technology or anything, and usually this type of people at the beginning, how to say, they are very technologically driven, not thinking about design and not thinking about business. And internet spent a lot of time to learning that you need to understand more than technology to make good business. And it was not easy for internet. Internet have bubble times and everything crashed. And people was initially exciting about a lot of business models, then excitement disappear. But I think key thing is that usually internet companies were started by technological people, and these technological people slowly learned how to make beautiful site, because if you remember early internet, pretty much all websites looks very ugly, right? So it was done by technical people. They really looks not very beautiful compared with what we have today. And people learned that you need to not only create functionality, you need to create beautiful design. And I hope and I see it's more and more happening with robotics right now. So people more and more start to understand that it should not only do something, it should look beautiful. And it's happened more and more, and it's very important. And other important thing that because it's usually started by technical people, they not usually understand or thinking about business perspective. Say, okay, I have some cool technology, but what kind of business? And this happens very, very regular, but I don't think it's special for robotics. I think it's more often and more broader situation for a lot of technology businesses like internet business, right? So this mismatch has happened, but we see that a lot of infrastructure companies like incubators, which try to help entrepreneurs to understand how to build business, understand the market, understand how to make the product. It's helped a lot. So mismatch is on the market right now, but I hope that robotics entrepreneurs will also learn how to do business, and it's very important to have a lot of its infrastructure around. So what I really believe that one of the most important things we should entrepreneur understand first, right now you can start robotics company. You can start robotics startups, which sounds very unusual still for a lot of people. I talk with a lot of MIT graduates, a lot of people from Russia in Silicon Valley. Still for them, it's not obvious case. They understand that they need to go to apply for big internet companies to go for programming. And this is, I think, other big fundamental problem which we have in hardware and especially in robotics, that a lot of people who are educated as hardware engineers not working as hardware engineers. They just learning how to do programming and coming to software internet business. It's pretty much happen everywhere, not only in Russia. For example, I before coming here, make some looking on my company, Moderator, which we have 3,000 people, and a lot of them are finishing best Moscow universities like Moscow State Technology University, Moscow University, and others. And if you could look what kind of professions they really studied, it's interesting. They like very sophisticated hardware engineers, but pretty much all of them are working in software industry. And I think what we should do as investors, as ecosystem, we need to explain people, guys, you can now start the company in hardware. It's a huge opportunity. It's absolutely new big market which are growing very fast. And this is, I think, very big fundamental question. If we will not solve this, it will be a big issue. Internet brings a lot of opportunity for us. And I think it's still very growing and very exciting market, but still internet is, how to say, inside of computer. It's not going outside. And I think the things like very new term called Internet of Things, where Internet going outside of computer. It's huge potential, and it's fundamentally very interesting market.
I'd like to actually come back to what you were talking earlier.
Sorry, we don't hear you.
Sorry,
Here,
I'd like
yeah.
to come back actually to the design issue that you were speaking about. Robots coming out of the startup environment right now are getting more sophisticated, but they're quite a long way away from what many people have come to expect from watching science fiction movies or what we read in the news. And I want to spend a bit of time talking about what the consumer's relationship is or will be to the new generation of robotics. How do we make robots more user-friendly? Cory, do you want to talk to us about what role sociable robots like Autom are going to play as robots become more mainstream?
Certainly. I think that robotics in general, social robots that understand something about interaction with people are a great interface. Things like Autumn here that can make eye contact with us when she's talking to you. The subtle social and psychological cues are actually very important to making an interface like this very easy to use, very intuitive for someone to understand how to use. And so something like this, I think, is novel on the market right now. Many of the mobile robots or the toys don't necessarily have those cues, but as we understand more about that, I think we're going to see that integrated into a lot more robotics that are starting to come out like Autumn. And really using that in the interaction, understanding the psychology of how we as people relate to one another and talk to one another, and using more and more of that in the technology, which we now have that understanding. We have the technical capabilities of doing simple things like making eye contact or speaking or understanding speech, make more and more complex products easier and easier for people to use every day.
Yes, actually, I was going to come to you next, Giulio, because I would like to understand how important is it to understand human-machine interaction as robots are coming into our homes and offices?
Well, I think I want to go on with this issue because I think that sometimes we think that the way we interact is very much mental. You have to think about what the other is doing and so on and so forth. But this is not true. At least it's not true 100% in the sense that there are messages that we pass to each other which are not really very cognitive, I would say, that are very, the way we move, the fact that I move my hands, if I move them very fast or slow, it gives you an information about what I'm doing. If I'm lifting an object, you understand from the way I lift the object what is the weight of the object. So there are messages that are passed implicitly when we collaborate, which are very relevant for the interaction, for many aspects of interaction, but particularly also for the safety kind of things. If we want to have robots among us, safety is basically one of the key aspects, and there is no way you can be safe with the robot by just making it soft or compliant, because most of what we rely on when we interact safely is in predicting what is going to happen. So, and this ability of prediction, which we are studying with the humanoids, can then be applied to any machine, a car, for example, or any other machine that has to interact. And as I was saying before, sometimes these messages are not very difficult to compute. So we don't really need to solve artificial intelligence to be able to use these kind of skills. And that are some of the things that we are actually thinking of moving into the market.
Safety is also an issue from a legal perspective. We have Intuitive Surgical and the Da Vinci robot have had a lot of negative press in the, especially in the American news lately, over safety concerns and lawsuits. And it seems that the legal question revolves a lot around who was responsible for the accident. Was it the surgeon? Was it the hospital or the manufacturer of the device? And I'm wondering what kinds of legal obstacles are we going to face as autonomous systems increasingly come into consumer spaces?
On my major interest part here, legal issues raised is already from time to time is raised. For example, defense robot this might be some big problem. Whether such a soldier robot can kill the enemy or not, such a responsibility. And another kind of robot is medical robot. From time to time, the patient may be dead due to some malfunction of the robot. Therefore, in the field of this medical robots, medical surgery, who will be responsible for this if the patient is dead? Is robot supplier or surgeon? But it was it was not open because it's a very critical issue. But in Korea, it happened already a couple of times. I remember that. Is the right answer? I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to pull back and talk for a minute about best practices moving forward. Frank, we've seen a number of government-funded competitions that have been instrumental in driving innovation. Why is the competition model so effective as opposed to other models of development?
Well, first I have to admit that we started the first competition in 2006, and it's interesting to see that this best practice thing is quite a difficult thing to achieve, because what usually happens is that the PhD students come with their work to the competition, then they participate in the competition, and after a few years they leave the university and a lot of knowledge is lost. And in the next year, the same university applies again for the competition and is doing the same mistakes over and over again. So when you address the field of best practice, I think that's something that's at least from the competition point is really missing. I mean, there's sure. I mean, the algorithms and all that stuff like SLAM and visual odometry or whatever, it all improves, but there are still a lot of mistakes that are made over and over again. And that's funny to see when you organize the competitions, because you try to push the teams into the right direction, but still they make quite a lot of mistakes over and over again. There is the robotics community, at least in the sense of the competitions, is still lacking the interchange of knowledge. You know, that one team says, you know, if you do it that way, it will go wrong. We have tested it a couple of times and it doesn't work. That doesn't happen. I mean, there's a lot of help between the teams. If something breaks, the other team helps. But in the sense of that they learn from the competition every year, that's not really the case. And I spent quite a lot of time on working on that, with doing kick-off meetings and all that. But when you look at the forums that we have, the electronic ones, the questions are the same every year, and it looks like the people don't go back in the timeline and look in the forum of the last year to answer the questions that they actually have. I have no explanation for what happens there, but it's definitely a pain when you have a competition and you have to answer the same question for 10 years.
So this issue of reinventing the wheel again and again seems like a problem. I'm wondering, Giulio, actually, can you maybe talk a bit about open source and what role that plays in helping to stop this from happening?
Yes, I think that the challenge is it's a very good way of advancing robotics, because you give everybody the same constraints. You can also reverse the issue, you know, and give the same different people the same platform. and see what they can come up with the same device, with the same features, software, hardware, and so on and so forth, which is not an alternative way, it's a complementary way of doing things, which has the advantage of giving us the possibility of truly comparing the different solutions that people are producing. Because one of the plague of robotics research is that very often the experiments are not reproducible because I'm doing it with a platform which is totally different from the platform of everybody else. So, and the outcome very often is a video. And sometimes what you see in the video, the only intelligence is in the viewer, it's not in the robot. And so we need really to stress the field so that what we do, it can be shared and it can be compared, and so only in this way I think we can advance.
Albert, I was wondering if you could maybe talk to us a bit about how useful you find institutional collaborations are between universities and industry or between universities in various countries. Could you come and talk to us about that?
Dmitry Grishin already actually says something about it, something very important, that our best engineering cadres, young people are not staying in hardware engineering but going into the software engineering. But I think I know why. And to understand you why, I will tell you a story, which once, actually it was Moscow State Technical University, which you also graduated. So before, being more deeply involved in the robotics, I have a series of meetings with all robotics professors of Baumansky University. And one of the meetings was very, I would say, showing the real problem. So they were showing me what they have in their portfolio of robotics project, and I said, it's interesting for Skolkovo, because I work for Skolkovo Foundation. I told them, can you make a company, a startup company which enters Skolkovo with this project? Because it seems like a very good project. And they said to me, no, we don't need it. Because we've got 100 million rubles military contract with Ministry of Defense. We are totally fine with money. We don't need anything. Well, I said, you don't need anything, but you've got students, you've got graduate students, PhD students, younger generation. They might not need something. They said to me, no, we don't want to let them go anywhere except working for our department, because otherwise nobody will work for us on our defense contract. And actually, this story repeats over and over in Russian universities. And for role for Skolkovo is we are, besides that we are giving, tax benefits and grants, is to make communication between all parties interested in this. University, because actually true research comes from university, and a lot of interesting things are now happening in Russian universities, and together with Frank we saw this all together in the conference which Alexander Lopota set up in St. Petersburg a month ago. Between startup community, and because it's essentially to teach people how to do technological entrepreneurship, and final, I would say, consumers of the products. Consumers might be military, of course it might be people who are involved in extreme robotics, but also a market, which Dmitry told, that people need to understand how to commercialize robotics. And our mission is just to create this platform, because we are kind of a bridge, which I like Giuliano's picture, that bridge by which was artist? Manet. Okay, it's a very good picture. Skolkovo is a bridge between one place, which is university, to another place is commercialization. So, as far as I know, there were no such bridges, such platforms in Russia before, and we are the first one. Just a moment more, why we are interested in robotics, because why it's important for Skolkovo. We are divided in 5 clusters: information technologies, biomed technologies, energy efficiency, space, and nuclear. But actual true innovation lies between. And when we started to identify directions which true innovation, breakthrough innovation lies. We identify digital healthcare, and I've got a stand on digital healthcare downstairs on the first floor. But second direction, which involve all clusters in Skolkovo, is robotics. Because it's extremely important that we bring together our community. And I think that's like our mission, just to bring parties together and make sure that they work together. Otherwise, everybody will sit in their houses, you know, in the clusters, not talking to each other, and our mission is just to break the walls between them. Thank you.
Thank you. Cory, you started your business in the US and then moved to Hong Kong and then are in the process of moving back to the US again, is that right?
So we're, from the beginning, located in Hong Kong and have US and Hong Kong companies, so kind of taking advantage of opportunities in both places for creating different parts of the company.
So why did you choose Hong Kong as opposed to the US where you're from? What's bringing you back? Can you talk to us about your move?
Sure. So we kind of split our company where we do design and development in Hong Kong, taking advantage of the cost of doing business there, cost of hiring software developers there being much more attractive than the US, taking advantage of incubation programs funded by the government and interest-free loans from the government as well. So it also made it, you know, economically very attractive. And the other piece of it is we're doing manufacturing in southern China in Guangdong province. And so the access to there from Hong Kong is very easy. Go work in the factory for a day, be home at night. Right now our market is in the US. We're expanding to Europe and Asia in the coming years. So the marketing, the business development happens in the US. So I spend a lot of my time on the road. For the last 4 years or so. It's increasingly been around the San Francisco Bay Area, so starting the middle of this year. I've used that as my base for a while, but still back and forth. I came here from Hong Kong a couple of days ago.
So I'm asking because I understand you're consulting right now with the Hong Kong officials as part of a science and technology advisory committee, and I'm wondering what advice are you giving them in terms of best practices?
I mean, what we've seen in Hong Kong in the last 5 to 7 years is a tremendous growth in the number of startups that are there in technology. So robotics is a small part of that, but we're seeing all sorts of technological growth. And I think a lot of that started from some of the incubation and government funding programs. You know, if we look back 5 years ago, this concept of incubators and accelerators was fairly new around the world. There were a few of them, but not many. Today there are a lot. So, you know, being unique in providing that support for startup companies, you know, in an environment where a decade ago there were very few technology startups, to 5 years ago, maybe 100 or so in the city. Today, I'm not sure the number, but well into the hundreds. You know, so the government providing that sort of support in terms of infrastructure, early seed stage funding, not large amounts of money, that's still left to private investors, but really helping you know, young students in particular coming out of school, educating them on how to create a startup, I think has been vital to putting together the overall scene there in terms of the entrepreneurial community.
So there are a number of countries now and economic zones have begun to earmark robotics as a specific area for development. And I'm wondering, does this type of specific earmarking help the industry? Frank?
I think from the experience that we have with the competitions is that the best way you can support innovation and startups is by getting the right people together, giving them the opportunity to express what they need, what they are capable of. And for example, there's one point I think Giuliani was stressing there is you have to invest quite a lot in open science and access to all the information you need, and the ability to travel, to show your stuff in different countries and compare yourself. I mean, what's the motive behind a growing and prospering community? What's the motive behind the evolution? It's innovation, and you only can sell your innovation when you are better, when you are the best in the field, and you can show that to the other people. So you have to have the ability to compare yourself, but that means you have to have access to all the tools you need. And I think that's probably also a step Albert is taking with his foundation here, is to support people in showing their stuff, getting to do the first step. So I think that's a brilliant initiative, but it needs a little bit more. You know, I've seen the Russian team on Urolon 2013, and they have done incredibly well compared to what they had access to and what they were able to bring over in hardware compared to Western teams. And that's, they just needed a little bit more, and I think they would have made first place. And so it's just that little delta that they missed in the, you know, access to the latest stuff. So I think that's probably the message is open source, open science, get access to everything and distribute your stuff, compare yourself, and move on.
Thank you. Dmitry, I'm wondering, because some of these large programs, they've got a portion of it is really meant to stimulate investment. And I'm wondering, how can governments and private capital work together to advance innovation in robotics?
You ask how government can help?
How can government and capital investment work together? Does it work?
You know, I'm a little skeptical about government helping improve robotics, honestly. I just believe that it's much better if it's done by community of entrepreneurs, by markets, which is usually moving much quicker and much more effective in terms of what they're doing. And I think the best way how it can be done, I think there is particular two ideas which are very exciting. One idea is, maybe you know, type of company in the United States called Tech Shop. It's a place where you have a big machine, like 1,000 square meters, we have different kind of machines, and a lot of people, the makers community and entrepreneurs can start to build some stuff. And I hope this kind of businesses someday will come into Russia also. And I see that more and more this kind of hardware hubs start to be built all over the world. And it's particular stimulate makers community and innovation hardware. The second is hardware incubators. I think it's also a very effective way where people not only understand how to make the business, which are very important. They also have a lot of experienced people which help to understand how to build product, how to move it to the market. And I know that right now, globally, maybe already more than 1,000 and even more like software incubators globally. And I know only 3 in hardware. So I hope it will be much more, and it's very effective. Otherwise, of course, government can help implement grants. It's definitely makes sense, but still I much more believe that good cases, for example, I believe that company like iRobot make much more for promoting consumer robotics than any kind of government can do, right? So just real examples which you can go to the shop, buy some robot, which are available to consumers, definitely motivate more entrepreneurs, and more money you have in this market and the more companies you have, the better. And I think market should do it.
Yes.
I have some addition for this governmental support because if we invest money in the big projects, it doesn't make sense, whether it's military stuff, disaster, reconnaissance, whatever. As soon as we have these big projects, the money comes to the big companies, then it's followed to the universities, and then to small businesses. Or from the big companies to small businesses. Because we see Boeing, the other companies, which have a lot of spin-offs with the small companies, where they invest a lot. The government invests in the big company, and then it comes to the small one. So this is will be somewhere in the middle.
So there's this trickle down.
Yep.
Jong-Oh?
maybe I may give some interesting, totally different viewpoint from Korea. Korean people are sometimes very enthusiastic, and Dmitry is right. I fully agree to his point. But the Korean government wishes to invest lots of money on robotics, and the Korean government wishes to market poor. Therefore, in the sense, world first, Korean government made robot law. It's really world first robot-related law. It was already enacted, and one of concrete policy in that law, this is establishment of robot land. Robot land is kind of amusement park where the robot is applied, like as some robot coaster and so on. And this is separated from my view. It is one direction of Korean government. And another, I would like to raise another issue. The theme became so diverse, and we are talking about robotics, and we are talking about commercialization, and Albert said here, Skolkovo. And I'm robot engineer, and maybe this is this has been a really very hot issue in Korea, maybe, but this is not just Korea specific. It is maybe one of important question. What's important for the product or robot? Is technology is still problematic or something else? But in my view, the commercialization or to get money with the robot, the most important thing is right product design is much more important than the wonderful robot technology. Because I'm a robot engineer, I wish to stick to my own technology, but we have to forget about it. And the most important thing is right product design. Is maybe one of the real very important issue for any robot company, or especially for the startup company.
Thank you, Jong-Oh. Our session time is almost over, and one of our panelists has a flight to catch. So I'm going to wrap up here and come back to the theme of the conference, which is why we're all here today. Is Russia going to be able to benefit economically from the promise of robotics? What kinds of obstacles does Russia face?
Well, do you want, maybe I can...
Whom you ask me not to, not hear you well.
It's an open question.
Well, can I, well, my point of view is academic, of course, so I can only speak about what could be what has been a difficulty for the academic in Italy, for example, but in some other places too, is I think we all agree that, you know, in order to advance robotics, we need more disciplines to be joined together, you know. And this is very much difficult in an academic situation where you have medical schools separated from engineering, from psychology, from science, and so on and so forth. So my suggestion, if I could, you know, would be, you know, to try to see really how you can break these, you know, these separations between fields, which is not easy. It has not to be done, you know, to all fields, but so it is something that you should add to the structure. It's not destroying the structure and you know, changing it, because, you know, maybe in a few years it will not be good, but the effort should really be, you know, at least for academia, you know, to go toward more interdisciplinary research groups, you know, people living and working together.
Cory, what advice?
Sorry, and robotics is a unique area where this can be done. Okay.
Cory, what advice would you offer Russia moving forward?
Well, I would actually strongly agree with what we just heard. You know, my graduate work was in psychology, AI, and medicine. I think it's a combination of those that makes particularly social robots, very interesting. I think there is a great opportunity for any country that can bring together these different pieces, the technology and the social and the healthcare aspects of this to create a big and growing industry in the near future.
Frank, do you have any words of advice?
I think most of the important topics are already touched. I think one of the things I took home from St. Petersburg and also from the exhibition downstairs is that sometimes, at least I can only speak for myself, I know so little about what's going on in Russia. I didn't know anything about the firefighting robots. I didn't know anything about, well, I didn't know about your robots because I've been in your research facility 10 years ago, but when I go to the internet, I find nothing of it. And even if I have two staff people speaking Russian and looking in the internet for me, doing a lot of surveying for my competition, so I can invite Russian teams, but it's so hard to find the stuff on the internet you do. And you do awesome stuff. I mean, just your robots and the firefighting things and a couple of other things I learned about the Chernobyl robots. It's so hard to find, and I think that's one of your biggest problems is promulgation. That's a big gap you actually have. And I'm glad that I have personal contacts to Russia, because otherwise I would be completely lost.
Alexander, what kind of advice would you offer policymakers in Russia who are looking to create programs or funnel funds? What would you suggest?
As I suggested, we need to stimulate the demand. And first of all, this demand is related to government investments. Investments in the projects, in the programs that we should launch in Russia regarding to universities, regarding to this specific special robotics, we say extreme robotics, because also it's coming, because yeah, you know about this conference. We've done a lot of stuff. We should talk not only about the robotics itself, but this is the intelligence systems, the computer vision, and this all together forming the market. And I see we have quite a good programmers here in Russia. So we have some control systems, which is actually spreading around the world. I know that it's happening. So what we need to push in having the nice hardware for control the system. As soon as we have this ergonomic design and a nice view, so it's go broad. But here inside the Russia, we have to share the service robotics and the industrial one, because for industrial robotics, yeah, there is a market. As soon as we have the industry, it's working. Mm-hmm. But if we talk about the service, there's the demand. If we don't have a demand, and this is how rich people you have. I started with this. If you have the unit cost of or sales of 1,000 euros, 2,000 euros, it's quite expensive here. You have to see on our what is it wealth of the population. So you have to share.
Thank you.
But I'm again want to emphasize and insist that we need the governmental programs for supporting the robotics and the social or like a public open robotics for especially in the universities, because I support personally a few universities with this Olympic Games with some teaching programs or whatever educational programs, and I see the feedback from these young guys, from students, from PhDs, and they have this bright eyes saying that, okay, I open for this stuff, I want to work with it. Let's say 2 weeks ago, I think, yeah, well, in this conference, no, not this conference, we had the exhibition in St. Petersburg where we get this Olympics for the youngsters. This is the Olympic Games, the local Russian Olympic Games for different schools and universities. There is not so many people for the booths, for looking for the exhibition, but but let's say 50% of crowd were the kids stuff.
Thank you.
And this is really, really impressive.
Thank you. Jong-Oh, do you have any final words for us today?
Maybe I might have said too much, but I would like to Russian people in terms of the robot industry. Maybe since 20 years, the industrial robot, hundreds of industrial robot manufacturers have been already merged with a couple of the industrial robot major. Therefore, the industrial robot sector there's no chance. And what kind of robot sector will be preferable for Russian? Maybe I would say each country has its own characteristic and its own strengths. Maybe Russia might have its own strengths, maybe on rescue robot or space robot or even soldier robot, such as Russian strong point should be more invested from the Russian government for Russian national wealth. Is my personal view. Thank you.
Thank you. Giulio, did you want to add anything to what you were saying earlier?
No, I just enjoyed the discussion, what is going on. I think all the good points have been raised, in my view. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dmitry, can you give us a final word?
Yeah, I think it's simple recommendation. Go and start robotics startup right now. And this is very, very simple, and I think the most right thing which you can do right now. This, I think, it's very simple.
Just do it.
Yes.
I'd like to thank so much all our panelists for coming today to share your perspective and advice. It's quite a feat to bring all of these very busy people together in one room, and so thanks also should go to the organizers of the event. Many of the issues we talked about today have importance far beyond Russia's borders, and it's just a pleasure to see so many people from the international community coming together, so thank you.